Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon, and we're going to talk about Palworld versus Nintendo versus Pokemon, or Pocketpair rather versus Pokemon. Looks like the US Patent Office is going to take another look at the case between these two companies. Nintendo is trying to patent game mechanics. We've been talking about that, and apparently they're trying to patent them here in the US, and I think they've been successful with one or two. Yeah, the 397 patent. And we're going to talk about this because now we're going to take another look at it, and we're going to see if Nintendo isn't just using this to knock out the competition, which is what most people think. And I don't think Nintendo should be allowed to succeed in patenting or trademarking game mechanics because many games share similar mechanics, right? So if Nintendo is able to do this by brute force, or just because they've got the better legal team, more money, deeper pockets, whatever, they will unfairly knock out any competitor. They'll say you can't make platform games because we have Mario. You can't do a monster capture game because we have Pokemon. You can't do an action RPG because we have Zelda, right? Very dangerous stuff. And Nintendo is really overreaching. And God, I don't want to hate Nintendo. I love Nintendo. I grew up playing Nintendo. I was the first generation Nintendo, right? Like, I was there for Donkey Kong in the arcade, and I remember how excited I was when the NES was announced. I mean, I was a kid, but I knew Nintendo from Donkey Kong, from Punch-Out, and I knew the original Mario Brothers, and so I literally grew up with Nintendo, playing Nintendo consoles. I was even the Super Nintendo sales boy. That was one of my first jobs when I was a teenager. I sold Super Nintendos at KB Toys. I had my own little vest and everything, and I handed out Yoshi stickers. So I don't want to hate this company, but I'm really starting to hate this company. I got to be honest. I have the same feelings for Nintendo that I have for Disney, which is I have a lot of very fond memories, and I remember what they were like during their heyday. And I can acknowledge the cultural impact of this company, but the modern version of the company I do not recognize. They're highly litigious, batshit crazy. I remember when they used to be the underdogs. And this whole Palworld thing is just absolutely insane. I mean, we've had Digimon, we've had Monster Rancher, and even the early Pokemon, the first generation Pokemon, a lot of them lifted from Dragon Quest. And you didn't see Enix suing them, or at least I don't think they sued them. But let's talk about this before we get into it any further. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Go out to Kickstarter. Geeky Sparkles has her Christmas pins up. They're going to be glittery Christmas pins. She designed all these herself, except for the Santa. I did the Santa, and I did her avatar. But check it out on Kickstarter. You've got a couple of days yet. Well, 70 hours, I guess. We're only going to run this one for about a week, and then we're going to leave it open for, I think, a week or two beyond that, but we really have to get the orders in to get these things in time so you guys get them for Christmas. We really cut it close with the Halloween pins. I did not think it was going to take that long to get them back. And just with everything going on in the world right now, it takes longer. So if you want to back these, please back them. Once we get to 8,000, we will unveil the Geeky Sparkles reindeer Christmas pin. And if we get to 15,000, which I don't know if we're going to do, but if we get to 15,000, I get to be a pin this time. I'm gonna be a snowman, but we'll see. We'll see how far it gets. Check it out on Kickstarter. So I do have to give a hat tip to Grums for this. Look at that. He got himself a little Meta PC badge there. Dude, lucky. So he's getting his own sponsorship deal. There you go. Grums is saying that it's Trump that saved Palworld. I mean, that's crazy. I love Palworld. By the way, I've been talking about Linux and switching systems over to Linux. I've got a 5-year-old 17-inch HP Omen laptop that got a lot of heavy use back in the day. I used to do video editing on the go. It just wasn't running quite the way I wanted it to run anymore. So I'm like, you know what? You're going to be the sacrificial lamb or lamb ball, and I'm gonna wipe you clean and install Mint on you. And my God, Palworld runs fantastic. It does. I think I maxed out the settings and it runs great. So you can play Palworld on Linux is what I'm saying, and I would recommend it because I don't like Windows anymore. But he said, yeah, after Japan rejected Nintendo's ball capture patent, we talked about that, they risk losing their US patent on pet battles, which gamers know was never novel or unique to Nintendo and would ban many categories of games, even World of Warcraft's pet battle system. Yeah, so many games use pet battles, I guess. I'm sitting there thinking like, man, even back in the 90s, we had a ton of games that had that kind of mechanic before Pokemon came out, right? And like I said, if we want to start getting litigious, they could definitely get sued by so many other game companies. I mean, Nintendo popularized a lot of genres, but it doesn't mean that they invented the genre completely, right? They took things from other games and kind of recombobulated. Is that a word? Recombobulated it. That's a word, but I feel like it doesn't mean what I think it means. But yeah, they basically just kind of would mix up, mash up different genres. Some things they did more or less invent, but not everything, right? So Grump says, what's crazy is that the article states the patent was granted without challenge to Nintendo. That never happens. He says, I have several patents and the process is always challenged by the PTO until you satisfy the examiners. I can agree with that. I can actually confirm that. We have several trademarks and we have a couple of patents under different company names. Yes, it's hard. The USPTO is a pain in the ass. It's a huge pain in the ass. And it can take months or even years sometimes to satisfy the requirements. So I feel like maybe some palms were greased because it is Nintendo. Hey, how would you like to have a whole bunch of Pokemon cards for your kid for life? We'll just back up the truck, as many Pokemon cards as you want, right? Just push this thing through. The smacks of favoritism by the PTO or examiner and will certainly weaken Nintendo's case. And look, Nintendo's stands, Nintendo's super fans, Pokemon super fans are very much like Disney fans. They're blinded, I think, by the product that the company puts out. Like, oh, I love Pokemon. Pokemon's great. That means the company itself is also great. No, not necessarily. They can make good things. They can put on the facade of being this, family-friendly company. It gives you the warm fuzzies or whatever. But you know what I'm saying? I'm like, hey, if you want to talk lawsuits and you want to talk, I just think about this. Animal Crossing is getting an update for the first time in like 3 or 4 years. And Animal Crossing basically knocked off The Sims, didn't it? So where's the lawsuit? Is EA going to sue Nintendo and say, hey, you all you did was take The Sims and put animals in The Sims? It's basically the same thing. I'm just saying, if we're gonna go there, right? Anyway, this is coming from, where are we at? Kotaku. We'll do Kotaku. Kotaku's actually kind of gotten its shit together since they got sold. They're not as bad as they used to be. I don't think they're not as political as they used to be. Those familiar with Nintendo are likely aware of the company's litigious proclivities. That is, except when a certain governmental body is using its intellectual property to promote the brutalization of human beings. Never mind. I just got done, Kotaku. I just got done saying you weren't as political as you used to be. And in the very first fucking sentence, you're going on about ice using Pokemon. Anyway, they said they scored a patent for summoning monsters and having them fight on your behalf, known as the 397 patent. It was an essential victory in Nintendo's battle against Pokemon with guns survival game Palworld, which is awesome. By the way, I love Palworld, but yes, it's been nerfed since Nintendo started mucking with it. Patenting a game mechanic is nothing new, but this particular patent has been regarded by many as absurd, and acquiring it hasn't exactly been the victory the Pokemon company seems to have been hoping for in its quest to deal Palworld an irreversible loss. And there's more to the Palworld situation, in my opinion. I think they would have been left alone had they not been that successful. Palworld, if you don't recall, when it first launched, it exploded. It was like the most popular game on Steam, I think, ever, or close to it. Might have been number 2, but it just like blew up massively. And then not long after that, Sony announced that they were going to form a company, kind of like the Pokemon company. They were going to form another joint operation with Pocketpair, and then they were going to bring Palworld to animation, to merchandise, to cards, right? So they were going to basically compete with Nintendo head to head. I think that's what did it. Nintendo's like, oh yeah, hell no. We can't have Sony teaming up with this hole-in-the-wall publisher to compete with us directly. They tried everything they could try. You had a lot of these Pokemon stands that were narking on Palworld, being like, these models are one-to-one with the Pokemon models, and they weren't. They weren't. They were actually got busted, I think, fudging some of the models to make them line up better or whatever. But then we had the whole controversy. They used AI for some of the monster designs. And then it turned out that no, they didn't. They had all kinds of artwork and stuff around the office. It was crazy. They just wanted to shut this thing down because it was too successful. We've had so many other monster capture games that haven't been that successful. They've been left alone for years. Right. And again, the biggest sin of Palworld is how successful it was. And the Pokemon company saw that as a huge threat. So it said, joining the chorus of folks saying this is silly is Trump nominee John A. Squires, director of the U.S. Patent Office, PTO. Squires has highlighted 2 older patent applications from Konami and Nintendo as prior art that might invalidate Nintendo's claim to owning the concept this particular patent focuses on. As a result, Squires has ordered the merits of the controversial 397 patent to be reconsidered. It doesn't look good for Nintendo's aggressive efforts. Yes, they are aggressive. I don't want to hate this company, but my God, Nintendo, you're making it so hard lately. You're making it so hard to like you as a company. I really don't. I don't like the lawsuits. I don't like the fact that they're trying to crush anybody who does anything with emulation. I'm not talking about, distributing ROMs. I'm talking about people that are modding Switches and whatever. They're trying to just destroy these people completely and utterly. It's a massive overreaction, overcorrection. This reminds me of back in the day where if you were a YouTuber and you wanted to stream Nintendo games, they would strike your channel unless you joined their MCN and gave them half the money. They really do use some Gestapo techniques, but I mean, it shouldn't surprise me. Back in the 80s, they did the same thing. If you sell Nintendo, you can't sell Sega Master System or whatever. I know that they had rules like the World of Nintendo. Like when we were kids, you remember the sign up like Woolworth or something like that would have the World of Nintendo, and only certain stores had Sega Master System or Atari 7800 or whatever, the competing systems were, because if you carried Nintendo, you weren't allowed to carry anything else, if I remember. So they've always been super aggressive. If you want to make Nintendo games, you got to buy the cartridges from us. You got to get the seal of approval. We're going to control how many games come out per year. They've always kind of been that way. They just weren't as blatant about it, I guess. But then all this stuff going on with the Switch 2, and you don't actually own your games, and it's crazy. So Games phrase Florian Mueller describes this move by Squires as a major loss for the company. Okay, as Mueller notes, Squires has not ordered the patent to be yanked. Reexamination orders, according to Mueller, can result in the patent being upheld. That's true. Doesn't happen very often, though. It's been my experience. That means there's enough doubt to reopen the case. This specific Pokemon case seems unlikely to be one of those situations. Yes, Nintendo has 2 months to respond to the reexamination, and in that time, other companies are free to challenge the merits of the patent. That means you could have other companies come out of the woodwork and be like, we were doing monster capture before. We've been doing monster capture. I mean, again, we've got entire franchises that Nintendo, to the best of my knowledge, never really messed with too much, that were monster capture games. I don't know. I mean, I don't know the whole history. I mean, it's very possible that they went after Monster Rancher and they went after, but there was definitely more than enough for everybody, and monster capture games in the 90s were crazy popular. It was kind of riding the wave with, Tamagotchi and all that stuff. People were really into their little digital critters. As always, more of a Monster Rancher guy. I just like put my different CDs in, but then I realized it's the same, like 5 monsters. They just have different textures. That was kind of disappointing. It said, these days it feels hopeless to expect any sort of fairness or equitable decision-making to come out of the federal government. Oh, God. But it seems like, at the very least, Nintendo's power grab might be reined in. Yeah, no, I think it's, I think this is Nintendo overreaching. I mean, here we have on Kotaku. They said Palworld is still a mess of copyright slop. Every single character design in the game is somewhere between sloppy recreation to egregious ripoff. That's not what's at stake here. That's not what's in question. Nintendo may have chose the wrong avenue to sue over, but pretending this is a win for creativity is a choice. This person says, at this point, anytime Nintendo loses, it's a win for everyone. Yeah, the problem, Again, the problem with Nintendo winning is that they will come after every competitor, real or imaginary. They will use their lawyers and they will conduct lawfare on every indie game developer. You should be, even if you think Palworld is a blatant ripoff of Pokemon, you should be rooting for Pocketpair because they were the scrappy indie developer that could. And yeah, you don't have to like the game, but if they did it to them, they can do it to you. They can do it to your friends. They can do it to another company that comes up with a brilliant idea. Maybe they make the best action RPG of all time, and Nintendo says it's too much like Zelda, so we're going to shut it down. Oh, you're creating a platform game where a character moves from left to right and collects metal objects. Well, that's very much like Mario. So Sega, you need to stop making Sonic the Hedgehog games because it's too much like Mario, right? Now, I guarantee you, if Nintendo could have sued Sega back in the day to get that, or use these techniques to get rid of Sonic the Hedgehog, they would have done it. I think they would have done it, and that's what's at stake. Can you imagine, like, if they would get the patent for something and they'd go back and be like, yeah, these games from like 10, 15, 20 years ago, yeah, you need to pull them off the market because we own that mechanic now. They were trying to patent characters hiding behind trees or bushes, and you could tell where the character was based on the shadow. So many games use that, right? It's ridiculous. Nintendo, in this particular instance, absolutely has to be stopped. They are acting like, basically the Disney of Japan. The same techniques that Disney uses. They basically sue you, threaten to sue you, or file suit to run you out of money. And, they picked the wrong battle, I think, to fight in this case. I really do think that this is going to blow up in their faces colossally, and I'm there for it, man. I'm there for it. I'm going to wrap it up. Please subscribe. We'll talk later.